When a player engages with an NOW SRDS, something is always lost. Hey everybody, it's Wild! Welcome back. This is the second half of my Advancing the Video Game Difficulty discussion plus Elden Ring analysis, and the third and final section of the overall discussion. Now, as stated in part 1, I suspect there will be individuals that disagree with some of the statements I had regarding Elden Ring and its difficulty, and this is specifically due to some of the systems that exist within the game. And they do make the game easier, and although these people are technically correct, some of the systems are so extreme that they lead the discussion about difficulty in a completely different direction that I'd really like to touch on. Now, as I stated towards the end of part 1, this next section is going to get a little bit technical, and I didn't want to include it in that video because I felt like I was going to lose some people. There is no reason to freak out. This might get a little bit technical, but we're going to break it all down, okay? Most of this video is going to be about self-regulatory difficulty systems, or SRDS, and nuclear options within self-regulatory difficulty systems, or NOW SRDS. As I said, we're going to cover this all, and by the end of this, you'll be able to add these to your gaming vocabulary, which will make it easier for you to discuss these specific elements in any video game that you play going forward. Okay, so starting off with self-regulatory difficulty systems, or SRDS. These are systems that the player can engage with to regulate the difficulty of the game that they're playing to their own wants or needs. Some of these are really well liked in the community, and others are not really well liked. And some of them are baked into the core of the gameplay, and some of them are very disconnected from the core of the gameplay. So to give a few examples, in an RPG, you get to choose what kind of class you play, what kind of armor and weapons and, skills or spells that you take with you out on your journey. And depending upon what you take with you might change the difficulty of the game. And you might realize that, in this game, if we're talking like a Souls game or something, right? A lot of the enemies can't handle spells super well. So essentially, you taking more projectiles where enemies have a harder time dealing with them, you are self-regulating the difficulty to be a little bit easier by engaging with that system. And the RPG ones, people generally tend to like, because it's already part of the natural progression of the game that you're making your own character and doing your own things. And so you're already going to be making your character and choosing things for your builds. It feels very natural. There are a few, though, that are just completely disconnected from the main core of the gameplay altogether, such as difficulty sliders. Difficulty sliders are not really well liked by the gaming community. I don't think they're always hated, and they have been implemented well in certain instances, but it's easy to see why players don't really like them, because if you're struggling on a boss or something like that, and you were in like an RPG and you find that using more projectiles helps just give you that little bit of an edge to overcome the enemy and you win, you feel like you leveraged things that you got to choose specifically for your build, right? You came up with the solution to overcome a problem, and that feels really good. Versus difficulty sliders, if you're struggling on a boss and losing over and over and over again, and you go into the menus and lower it from hard mode to easy mode, what are you supposed to feel as a player, right? You're going to be like, yeah, I really knew how to go into that menu and lower the difficulty. Got it, right? And it feels very artificial in your accomplishment of overcoming something. That being said, they're not always bad, but there are many different types of SRDS is the point that I'm getting at. Some of them are baked into gameplay, some of them are separate from it, some of them are like entire systems that you could engage with that are part of the gameplay, but clearly seen as like optional and you could get through without engaging with them at all. There's a lot of different types of SRDS. Now, I am very positive about SRDS, and I'm sure a lot of other gamers are as well. However, there exists certain options within SRDS that are so extreme and over the top that they will fundamentally change the experience that the user has with the game, and it may seem as the user is outright breaking the game itself. And I am calling these nuclear options. These aren't always present in SRDS, but they can be. These nuclear options within self-regulatory difficulty systems, or NOW SRDS, is primarily what I want to focus on in regards to Elden Ring and furthering the discussion on difficulty in this video. Before we really dive into the meat of things, I'm going to say something that many of you will have a strong negative reaction to. You will probably disagree with me, but by the end of this video, you will understand me, because I have a point, and it's a good one. NOW SRDS are worse than simple SRDS like difficulty sliders. And Elden Ring having SRDS in the form of difficulty sliders would be better than having buildcraft options that are NOW SRDS. Simplified, Elden Ring would be better with difficulty sliders and not having some of the more extreme buildcraft options. What I've just said is probably extremely controversial, but you can take the rest of this video as evidence to support my point. Let's start off with an absolutely classic example. You don't need to have played Dark Souls to get this, so don't worry about that. You have two friends, friend A and friend B. And friend A has played Dark Souls for the first time. He has a whole slew of reasons that he absolutely loves this game. It makes sense, and he was engaged and loved his experience the whole time. He then lets friend B borrow the game. And friend B doesn't feel the same way. He wasn't engaged and didn't find any of the mechanics as compelling as friend A did. One day, friend A goes over to friend B's house and watches him play the game. And, well, he sees something absolutely degenerate, like the most degenerate thing that you could see in Dark Souls. And lucky for me, I watched Joseph, my brosif Anderson's Dark Souls critique, and he helped me realize just how insanely busted magic can be in Dark Souls when you abuse it. So, take it away, Joseph. Upon witnessing the absolute horrors of his friend playing his favorite game, he walks over to the window, opens it up, and throws himself out of his friend's 3-story apartment window. Okay, maybe that's a little bit too drastic. But okay, he looks at his friend and he's like, dude, you're playing the game wrong. And his friend's like, what do you mean I'm playing the game wrong? I'm playing it. I'm using the magic. And friend A says, yes, you are using the magic, but can you not see that you're not paying attention to your positioning or really the timing of boss's attacks or yours? You're just like standing back and blowing them all up. And when you're out of magic, that changes. You're having to worry about positioning and when you're going to go in for an attack with your melee weapon and when they're going to attack you with their melee weapon. This is where it all started. This is where the whole "you're playing the game wrong" thing started, is because when you use an SRDS, you essentially change a little bit about how you engage with the game. But when you use an NOW SRDS, the engagement shatters. And this is the backbones of my argument why I'm saying that these are worse than difficulty sliders. An NOW SRDS destroys engagement. How you engage with the game is completely different. It should also be noted that having fun is a separate thing, and having fun is the main goal of playing a video game. Joseph My Broseph in Elden Ring, A Shattered Masterpiece, his critique of Elden Ring, he asked this question: what's the right way to play these kind of games, the Souls games, Elden Ring? Sword and shield? A big great sword? Magic? What's the right way to play them? And he came to the conclusion, whatever's fun for you. As long as you're having fun, you're playing the right way, and that there is no wrong way. And this sounds great. If you're having fun playing a game, and games are an entertainment medium, so if you're having fun, then you're playing the game right. It makes sense. And life is kind of the same way, right? Live life to the fullest is what people sometimes say, right? Have fun. If you are having fun, then you are living life the right or the correct way. And that sounds really good until you meet your first serial killer. And then you're like, oh, yeah, that guy is living life to the fullest and having fun, killing people. And if we just said everybody can live life to the fullest and do whatever makes them fun, then we would be condoning people that like murdering others to go do so. And then you have a handful of people and all of society collapsed because they kill everyone. And so you have a sort of a conundrum now. It can't just be about fun. We need like something else. We need ethics, right? If everyone behaved in this manner and society couldn't exist behaving like that, we're just going to consider that unethical, and we're just going to say people shouldn't do that. It's like the backbone of Kantian ethics. If everyone did that and society can't exist, we're just going to put in that the no pile. So live life to the fullest and do whatever makes you happy, asterisk. And then you have all the stuff in the this is an ethical box, right? Games are the same way. If you're having fun playing a game, that's the most important thing. Asterisk, there's some other things in a little box though, like engagement, which to me is one of the most important things when it comes to talking about games. And this is because a lot of times engagement is directly correlated to having fun. Back to that classic example of friend A and friend B in Dark Souls, friend B wasn't having very much fun in Dark Souls. And I think part of the reason is he wasn't as engaged with the game. Using an NOW SRDS, my argument of why they're bad is because they lower engagement. You could still have fun, but your engagement is lowered. And so I think we can now say that there is really more of a right way to play these games. It might not be the lasting, full, true definition that is used for generations to come, but at least for right now, I think I'm willing to settle on the right way to play a game is the way that's most fun for you while also remaining as engaging as possible. If you are having fun with the game and you're also really engaged by the game, then you're playing the game the right way. This is my argument for why NOW SRDS are bad. Whenever you engage with one, something is lost. Oftentimes that will be in the form of engagement. And as I've already said, a lot of times the more engaged you are with a game, the more fun you are having. which means that when you engage with an NOW SRDS, you always lose something. And if it happens to be engagement, it could also be fun. Oftentimes it will be. This isn't a universal truth. Returning to Zach for a moment. In his playthrough of Shadow of the Erdtree, he went into it with a double halberds build where he used a lot of jump attacks. At some point, he shifted from that build and started using a Great Shield. Great Shields in Elden Ring are NOW SRDS. 100% they're NOs. They're insane in Elden Ring. And he still had fun. Now, I haven't watched everything. I haven't watched the entire playthrough of his Elden Ring journey, but I watched a decent chunk of the bosses. And there was one in particular that stood out, and that was General Gaius. He defeated this boss in one go after he had made the shift to this Great Shield build. And he had fun. In general, with Elden Ring, he said, or Shadow of the Erdtree to be more specific, he had fun playing the game. And that's the main goal. That's what video games at the end of the day should do. They should be fun. But also, when you engage with an NOW SRDS, something is always lost. And oftentimes, it will be engagement. So, despite having fun, how was Zach's engagement when he fought this boss?
You can go over here. Oh, that's okay. Sometimes you're gonna get so far. So if we just kill him here, right?
When a player engages with an NOW SRDS, something is always lost. Here it's in the form of engagement and understanding. If he ever goes back to fight this boss, he's going to have a harder time the second time than the first time. Generally doesn't happen with these kinds of games, really almost any game. Once you've done it once and you've learned, it's easier the second time because you've taken in that information. But here, engagement was so low that nothing was learned. Something is always lost, whether you had a good time or not. And that's the problem with these systems. Silence gives space. Space in your own head. It lets you process everything and self-reflect on it. Maybe you've seen a video on YouTube of somebody using an NOW SRDS. You thought it was funny, but never considered using one yourself. You've always thought they're kind of icky or wrong, but you never knew why you felt that way. Maybe you had a friend that used one. Maybe you didn't like that they used it, or maybe you just didn't care, but you know they used it. Maybe you used one. How did it change your experience? How engaged were you? How different was the experience from anyone else not using one of these systems? What about those of you that disagreed with me when I said that simple SRDS like difficulty sliders were better than NOW SRDS? Somebody struggles with a boss, they go into a menu and change it from hard to easy, but they're still engaged with the boss the whole time. They still have to learn all of the timings. They still have to learn when to heal. They can't just have, a spirit summon take aggro for them. They're engaged the whole time. You still hold your position? Silence gives that space. A lot of us don't always get these days to self-reflect. For some of you, self-reflection and introspection comes simply and naturally. But there are others, and it's just not enough for you, is it? Oh no, it's not enough for you. You would go to bed tonight, and you would self-reflect on using your NOWSRDS or your best friend, and you would justify it to yourself. You would say, no, there's no problem here. Everything's just fine. So why don't we take things from a different angle now, shall we? Have a look at this. This is me fighting Melania, one of Elden Ring's hardest bosses. Now, am I supposed to be, doing something right now? I feel like I'm forgetting something. Nope. Oh, right! I'm in the middle of a boss fight! You're going to see that! You're going to see what's on screen right now in front of you! And you're going to tell me that NOWSRDS are okay? You're going to say, oh, there's no right or wrong way to play the game? Tell it to my face, Joseph. Go ahead! Tell it to me! There's clearly something wrong here when you can put the controller down and have your character walk into the wall as you lick yourself in the middle of a Souls boss fight. There's clearly something wrong. Do you not see it? I see it as clear as day. NOW SRDS are worse than simple SRDS like difficulty sliders. Sure, they can be balanced bad too, but in general, these systems take the core, the essence of what the developers want the game to be, and they smash it into little pieces! These systems are bad. Now, for those of you who couldn't self-reflect, hopefully that did the trick. Now, a few of you may disagree that NOWSRDS shouldn't be in any game because you see them as a form of pseudo accessibility feature. But I think this logic is really flawed. Developers have to specifically design accessibility into their game. It's not just a system that is so broken that it breaks down the core. It has to be designed by the developers. And furthermore, it should be clearly telegraphed to the player what the accessibility is and who it's for. I watched a video years ago from Game Maker's Toolkit where he talks about this very thing in games, and specifically the game Celeste, and how the developers handle this kind of system.
The game's developers explain the intentions of assist mode with great care and attention before they let you turn it on. Here's what they say. Assist mode allows you to modify the game's rules to reduce its difficulty. Celeste was designed to be a challenging but accessible game. We believe that its difficulty is essential to the experience. We recommend playing without assist mode your first time. However, we understand that every player is different. If Celeste is inaccessible to you due to its difficulty, we hope that assist mode will allow you to still enjoy it. This left me with no confusion about how Celeste works. Assist mode is not for me. It might as well not exist as far as I'm concerned, and I never used it when I played and finished the game. This isn't an easy mode that I might switch down to if the game's kicking my butt. It's an assist mode that's just there for those who really feel they need it.
These are meant for people who actually have a disability of some kind, and for one reason or another, they literally can't play the game. They need assistance. And so there's SRDS to help them. Even still, unless you're going crazy with some of these, and this is one of those examples that I haven't given before, but if you use a lot of SRDS, I guess it's sort of like an NO in a sense, but in even just tweaking one or two of these, it's still not in NOW SRDS, right? It helps you, but it's still not going to just absolutely shatter engagement. So I think this is a good example of a game having essentially these aren't like difficulty sliders, they're more like difficulty tweaks. But going back around to what I said originally at the beginning of the section of this video, where you guys probably all thought I was crazy, you might not agree with me. But I've got a point, a good one. When I say that Elden Ring would be better with difficulty sliders than having NOWS RDSs. Wouldn't it have been better if that could have just been like, okay, look, the game's a little bit too hard, I want to use my double halberds build, and instead of just ignoring all of the boss's timings for all his attacks for the rest of the game, I'm just going to change it from hard to easy. How is that not better than using an NO and just ignoring entire mechanics? You nuts? You think that putting the controller down on like the floor or on your desk or whatever and licking yourself in the middle of a boss fight is better than a difficulty slider? Get out of here. Get out of here, fake gamers. We're enamored with the idea of coming up with solutions to solve problems, to the point that when they are not solutions to like solve a problem, but they are a nuclear option to solve everything, we abuse them. Now, I've been poking a bit of fun at Zach in this video, but I think he understands what I'm trying to say. I went and watched his final thoughts on Shadow of the Erd Tree, and he said something that's extremely insightful that makes me realize that he really does understand and agree with a lot of what I'm saying. He just felt pushed into a corner, perhaps.
The reason why games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring were so transformative and amazing is actually not because they were hard. It's because they were an open canvas that you could solve problems on, and it gave you ownership of that success. And I think that's why Dark Souls was such a great game. That's why Elden Ring was such a great game. So if you make the focus should never be on making the game hard. The focus should be on making the game feel fulfilling, challenging, enjoyable, and fun.
I think at some point during his playthrough of Shadow of the Erd Tree, he realized it's not really like Dark Souls or base Elden Ring. The game, in many ways, does seem to just be difficult for difficulty's sake. It's over the top, it's cruel. It leaves almost no chance for the player to breathe in many situations. His fight against Mesmer was the last one he used with his double halberds build. He lost to that boss again and again and again. And I think that after that fight and losing over and over again and not getting anywhere, he wasn't just thinking, how can I defeat this boss, but how can I make the overall experience through the rest of this playthrough less painful? When a game is this hard, it pushes people to look for alternative solutions. Some players will admittedly just keep throwing themselves at the challenge until they get it done, but for a lot of players, it's just too much. They're going to be looking for alternative ways to make things easier and less painful. And they may start with SRDS, right? They may start with Buildcraft in Elden Ring, which is really robust. But I think it's really easy for players to not know how to fully optimize their builds. I'm not exactly sure why. Part of this is not going outside of the game itself, which you shouldn't have to do. That's part of it. But another part of it may just be like really critically thinking about all the mechanics in the game. But I think it's really easy for players to run a build that they like, and it's pretty good, but it could be optimized further. Taking a look at Zach very quickly, I don't want to get full into this, but his build is woefully unoptimized. When he's fighting Mesmer here, to start off with low-hanging fruit, he only has +9 to his max flask upgrade level with Sacred Tears. It can go up to plus 12. Strangely enough, actually going through some of his footage, somebody comments about that while he's fighting Mesmer, that he can upgrade it. And he's like, no, I have max upgrades. So once again, there's nothing in the game that's like, you're not at max. That would be something a player would have to go outside of the game to like Google, be like, what's a max flask upgrade, right? You might not know that. A normal person, that's reasonable, they wouldn't know. When two-handing weapons, your right-handed weapon, your main hand weapon, it can use its Ash of War with a button press. Your left-handed weapon cannot. To use its Ash of War, you need to two-hand it. And that gives it its full moveset, its full two-handed moveset, including its Ash of War use, because your other weapon is essentially put away. It's clunky to do that for a lot of people, to two-hand the weapon, to use its Ash of War in the middle of combat. And so what's really common is to have an active Ash of War on your right-hand weapon, and your left one just has a buff you use before the fight. So you two-hand your left-handed weapon, use its Ash of War, which is a buff, and then stop two-handing it. And then you just got your right-handed weapon, which has like a more active attacking Ash of War. Zach has his buffing on his right hand. So in combat, he doesn't have an active, like combative Ash of War he can use. Or if he just switched which hand his halberds were in, at the beginning of the fight, he could two-hand the golden halberd, buff himself, stop two-handing, and then Gargoyle's halberd can have whatever Ash of War he wants that would work for combat, right? Impaling Thrust. Or he could do Chilling Mist, trying to proc Frostbite for a raw 20% extra damage. The buff on the Golden Halberd, Aurelia, it can be cast as an incantation. Once again, you would not know this unless you've been outside of the game, but for whatever reason, Aurelia as an incantation gives a more potent buff than the Ash of War version you can put on weapons or that the Golden Halberd has. I don't know why, that's just the way the game is. And so a lot of players for mini builds will put in enough points to get Aurelia and probably Hollow Dawn as well. They'll also put that on their hotbar, and they'll just use a basic Sacred Seal. It doesn't really matter what it is, what its incantation scaling is, what its upgrade is. You're just using it for buffs, which are flatline. So you have Hollow Dawn, you have Aurelia, you have more physical and fire damage now, more physical damage, more every damage and damage negation. And then you're also proccing, let's say, Frostbite with Chilling Mist on the Gargoyle's Halberd, which makes the enemies take 20% more damage. And now if you're just doing your normal jump attack stuff, it's going to hit really, really hard. And now you don't need the Golden Halberd because you have Aurelia in the form of an incantation. So that can be replaced with potentially a more powerful halberd. So you could still use this jumping halberds build, is what I'm saying, but really optimize it. But most players aren't going to have the knowledge necessary to really do everything that I've just said. And I think that's kind of why many players are probably just going to go online and potentially find a build that they weren't using before that just looks powerful and potentially is an NOW SRDS. When I say the game is cruel, I mean it. These bosses just attack again and again and again and barely give the player a chance to breathe. Sometimes it's really hard to find a place to heal. And I had mentioned this many times in my playthrough of Shadow of the Erdtree, but I'd get all these cool spells, and I was like, there is no way I am going to be able to use this against a boss in this playthrough. Like, how am I going to be able to use any of these really long cast time spells when I can barely find a chance to heal? It feels like they were modded in. Some of these bosses are absolutely ridiculous for their attack strings too. They'll attack 5 or 6 times, have a small break where you can hit them once or twice or maybe get a heal off, and then they just go right back to it. I think Bale's the worst example of this. He goes on and on and on with some of his attack strings. This is a complaint that was levied by Joseph Anderson in his original critique of Elden Ring, his Shattered Masterpiece critique. And, well, strangely enough, he said he likes Bale. I don't. Bale's the worst boss in Elden Ring for having long attack strings and not letting the player attack. Okay, let me narrate this from Bale's point of view. Witness my final form. I'm flying in the air and shooting missiles at you so you can't hit me. Haha, you can't hit me with your little melee weapon when I'm in the sky. What? You're hitting me a few times, how dare you? Here's my fire spike with an After Effect explosion. Here's another one with another After Effect explosion. Now I teleported over here. Here's my fire lightning. What do you think of that? You think you can get close to me to hit me with your little melee weapon? I don't think so. No, I'm too far away for you to hit me with your melee weapon. Go ahead, try to hit me. Nope, I'm up in the air now. Bam! Here's fire lightning with explosion after effects. You want some more? Don't try to hit me, I'll bite you. I'll bite you if you try to hit me. You hit me? How dare you? I'll fly away and smash you. You think you can hit me? Fire effect explosion. I got you with that one. Here's fire lightning spike with an after effect explosion. Here's fire lightning spike with an after effect explosion. Here's another fire lightning slash attack with a smash and an explosion. Why not go for another one with an explosion? And here's some fire lightning, fire lightning, fire lightning, fire lightning, fire lightning. Yeah, what do you think of that? Here's my lightning slash with an After Effect explosion. And now I'm gonna fly into the sky so you can't hit me. I'm in the sky so you can't hit me with your melee weapon. I'm in the sky so you can't hit me. Alright, now I'm finally on the ground. I'm gonna try to bite you. Alright, are you gonna be able to hit me? Nah, how dare you? Here's a double attack on you. Another attack? Okay, here's a double slash with a After Effect explosion claw slam. And here's my fire lightning, fire lightning, fire lightning, fire lightning, fire lightning, fire lightning. Now I'm gonna rush at you. You can't hit me now because you're too far away with your melee weapon. Now you have to come get me. What? How dare you hit me? Here's my fire lightning spike slam with an After Effect explosion. Here's fire lightning, fire lightning, fire lightning, fire lightning. Now you're too far away from me. I better fly up in the sky and smash you. Are you gonna try to hit me? After Effect explosion. You didn't remember about that, huh? Now I'm gonna fly up in the air and you can't hit me because I'm in the air and you're using a melee weapon and I'm shooting missiles at you. Can't get me. I'm in the air. Now I'm too far away for you to hit because you're using a melee weapon. You're gonna come get me? Here, I'm gonna bite you. But not really, I don't know why I use that move. Here, I'm gonna smash you with my attack. And fire explosion after effects. Why the heck not? I'm gonna bite you. I'm gonna bite you again. Where are you going? Alright, here's my slash attack. Double slash, yeah. After effect explosions everywhere. Why the heck not? And now I'm gonna fly up in the air and try to smash you. You gonna remember about the explosion after? Well, what? You weren't supposed to remember that. Alright. Well, what would you say if I explode everything? What is he doing? I think he's at the same point I was, but it's like, what are you doing against this? Are we... This isn't edited or anything. I'm just reacting to this. This is so... This is how it always feels when I fight him too. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it's like you never get a chance to actually hit this guy. Like, how do you... Joseph, honestly, dude, you think this is the best dragon in the Soul series? Really? Are you sure about that, buddy? This boss is awful. And there were a lot of people, I think, didn't Actman also put this like really high on his tier list for when we saw that, like at the bosses? It's like, this guy's at the bottom. What are you guys talking about? This is such an awful fight. I'm like, you can't attack this thing. I mean, realistically, we can go around the side of it and have better luck, but it's an encapsulation of everything I was talking about. It just is endless. It feels so cruel and ruthless. It's like, but why is it like this? Oh my gosh. It's ridiculous. I think sometimes it goes up of almost like a minute of not realistically being able to attack the boss. It's insane. And you've got instances like Melania's waterfowl dance. Obviously, it's very, very, very strong, but I'm talking about cruel. And there are elements of it that aren't talked about. I don't know how they're not talked about. I mean, I'm sure they've been mentioned, but I never really hear them, and to me, they're just as bad. The windup for the most powerful attack, Waterfowl Dance, in any Souls game, and probably harder, let's be realistic, more powerful and a harder attack to deal with than almost any action RPG, Waterfowl Dance, the windup for that is like 1 second. She just goes one into the air, and then it starts the attack. The most powerful attack in Souls history has a as its windup? What? And then after she does it, there's no punish window. She has like, you can get like a hit off on her with like a running attack or a jumping attack or something, and then she's right back to attacking you. The most powerful attack in Souls history doesn't have a punish window even after you dodge it. It feels bad. It feels difficult and needlessly cruel. And that's the game design in a lot of the later half of base Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree. It just feels mean and cruel, and it pushes people not only to look at things like Buildcraft and other SRDS, but in many ways, it'll push them to go farther. It might even push them outside of the game directly for help. They might find something on YouTube, and before they know it, they're using an NOW SRDS. I don't have any hostility towards people who have used these systems, because the game is cruel, it's mean. I've already shown the clip of Zach saying it wasn't about being hard, and I think he's right. I don't think that being needlessly cruel and hard should be the goal of these games. But the truth of it is, Elden Ring is out. Shadow of the Erdtree is out, and sometimes it gets some balance patches, but for the most part, the game is how it is, and it's not changing. The game is needlessly cruel. How are you going to deal with it? And because there aren't SRDS in the game like difficulty sliders, which could realistically fix these problems, a lot of players are just going to feel outgunned, and like nothing they do is working, and they're going to use an NOW SRDS to beat the game. And I don't blame them. Because when the game is this hard and it doesn't have systems that would be better, but it doesn't have them, then, well, what other options do they have? So we've covered Wild's difficulty quantification metrics, TM, in part 1. In part 2, we looked at Elden Ring, and we can now definitively say that, according to my own metrics, it is not too difficult. But there are elements of the game that definitively are. A lot of the bosses probably can be put into that category as well, but it as a whole, probably not. Unless you aren't where Papa FromSoft wants you to be. And in part 3, we took a look at nuclear options within self-regulatory difficulty systems, or NOW SRDS, and why I don't think that those can be used as a good sort of counter-argument for some of the things I said in part 2. Although they do make a game easier, they are so extreme that they oftentimes lesser player engagement and make them have less fun. And even if they don't, something is always lost when engaging with them. And in general, we just shouldn't want them to be in games at all, and players should try to avoid them unless they absolutely cannot complete a game without using them. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, you are an absolute legend, and I would definitely appreciate leaving a like on this video and subscribing for future content. If you want to support me directly, my Patreon is in the link in the description below. Until next time, I'm Wild, and I'll catch you in the next one. When I released part 1 of this video, I only had 2 subscribers to this channel, my best friend and what I assume is one of my most loyal Twitch followers. And after releasing part 1, I doubled my sub count. I mean, it's still single digits, but come on, let me have that one. It's a win regardless, right? I do want these videos to get out there, though. Obviously, anyone wants their voice to get out, right? And it feels good to make these after all this time. The only other content I really have that's good on this channel is my short skit series, Video Game Journalist Plays Elden Ring. They're like a few minutes, definitely worth watching. They're pretty funny. And I didn't make a part 3. I had this big plan for part 3. Part 2 is going to lead into it, but I was using like some sort of free video editor back in the past, and I lost the free trial, so I just didn't make it. Plus, nobody watched part 1 and 2. But, now that I have Premiere, I think I'll make part 3. I think I still have all the little clips for it, so might do that in the future. It'll be something smaller scale and fun to work on. The only other things that are up on this channel are my first 2 VODs, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, New Game Plus 7, and Dark Souls. And the audio quality is awful in Elden Ring, and I didn't have the chat added for Dark Souls. So not the greatest quality content for you guys to intake, but I do plan on making some shortened versions of my playthrough of Shadow of the Erdtree and Dark Souls at some point in the future. It's probably pretty obvious, but I had a lot that I wanted to say in these videos that's been bouncing around in my head for years. And it wasn't until I really, took a leap of faith, bought this microphone, and started learning Premiere that I was finally able to get my voice out there. And man, it feels good. It's probably why some of the sections maybe seemed a bit rambly or dragged on a bit, because I've had these thoughts for so long and just no outlet. So it feels really good to finally get these out here. And I hope that you'll stick with me for my future videos. Until next time, I'm wild, and I'll catch you in the next one.